He said everybody over there on Cabrillo going crazy. That's a crazy unit for the young kids. And I was just like, man. So when you get
When he
in
says
there,
crazy, what does he mean by that?
I mean fights, fights in the shower, fights in the city. I mean, it's nonstop. The bell's always ringing over there. You know what I mean? They always running in the Cabrillo. So, but we on orientation unit. This Pico still. So as you walking, as you looking out the window, our unit where I was on Pico was facing the yard. So there's a yard side where you can see all the units, and there's a side where you don't see nothing. But luckily, I was on the side where I could see all the units walking the chair. And then Patola was walking by. And now this is still my first day. So people, as they was walking the chair, I just hear someone just yell out someone's hood, "Fuck your dead homies. Fuck such and such." Because it's quiet as they walking, so people just shaking their heads. They trying to turn around, mean mug. So we call them cell soldiers. So that's what everybody did. I ended up doing that shit. I was one of the motherfuckers that used to do that shit all the time. I used to want to irritate my enemies anytime they walk by. So we used to call them cell soldiers. And I got into that shit later on. But I said, damn, what they doing? He said, man, they do that all day, man. That's all you go hear. Someone just diss someone hood, dead homies all day. And I'm like, all right. I like, when do we come out? He was like, shit, you got a 3 days quarantine or 24-hour quarantine, so you can't leave your cell at all until you do quarantine for 24 hours. Coming from juvenile hall. And then once we get through that quarantine, I stood on Pico for like 7 days, and then they shot us to Cabrillo. And Cabrillo's where it's at.
Tell me about Cabrillo. What was your experience there, and specifically the ugly of Cabrillo? And
so there's one you did an interview with, L.A. Capone.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's where I met him at. His name is, we called him D-Rock back then. Him and my boy Lil Rob, they was co-defendants. And then he came down there. He had that country voice and all that. I met him on Cabrillo.
Okay.
So when we get there, it's just everybody's small. I'm tall for my age, but everybody was just little. Everybody's mean mugging. People cussing out the staff as soon as you walk in. I ain't even got to my cell yet. It was like, I ain't got locked up. You make me lock up. Like talking to the police like that. Police twisting their arms up, throwing them on the floor. Police were pushing a full Nelson. It was just crazy. So they put me in the cell with an essay from MS-13. This is the first time I ever heard of them back then. So I don't know if they was freshly new or if they've been around. But he was a cell soldier. He was a cell soldier of mine. I had a homeboy that was next door. I actually talked to through the vent named Baby Clee Dog Chico, rest in peace, from Bloodstone Village. And we was in juvenile hall together. He was like, "MoBill." I'm like, "What?" He said, "Man, I got a problem with your study from juvenile hall, man." He said, "I want you to see that nigga." He said, "That nigga," he said, "this dude from MSA, he ain't gonna do nothing." And I jumped off the bunk. Peter, bro, this is my first day over there. This is my first fight. I'm beating him up to the cell. The homies are laughing. Everybody yelling, kicking on the door. So when you fight, everybody kick on the door. The police can't hear who's screaming. You know what I mean? The dude was a little dude. And that's one thing about Cabrillo. When you get bored, you'll fight your cellie. You'll take your cellie's food, like at lunchtime. There might be sack lunches. You ain't going to eat again until dinner. You just take his food. Just like you ain't eating shit. Once he find out that he's a bitch and that he ain't moving like the way he's supposed to be acting, all that yelling out the window, and you ain't living up to that, your cellie start testing you. Then I used to just try to beat up my cellies and take their Walkmans if mine broke, take their little canteens, the little stuff we can get. And you just get bored because you got to think about it. We 14 years old, locked in the cell all day outside of going to town down there. And then so once you're in Cabrillo, we all used to sign up for church. And church would have you where you could get out the cell a little time. But people wasn't even going to church to learn. We was going to church just to see our homies. And then there was a dude named Black Blood. He was from PDL, from Pasadena, Denver line. And he was like one of the biggest dudes on the compound. And I used to chop it up with him. But I remember him and a dude named Blue Rag. I ended up seeing Blue Rag when I was in Sentinel in the hole. But they got down, and I never heard of Do Rock Crip. I didn't even know what that was. But they had rushed each other. And I said, these niggas, some two big old monsters squabbling in the middle of church. So after that, you start seeing people fight at church. You start seeing people flood their cells, like just get bored and just stuff their cells with hella sheets and just flood it for the staff to get mad. You used to see the staff going to sell them, just twist your arm up and everybody screaming. And I was right there when L.A. Capone was telling my women that S.A. socked him up, going to showers.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, you better watch it. S.A. for to get you. And he didn't pay attention. S.A. snuck his ass, too.
Damn.
But there used to be a lot of dope feeling, like when you walking in the chow hall, like you used to have to walk with your hands in the pocket 4 across, right? So if you ain't looking, your enemy would dope pin you if he was just a foot or 2 behind you and jump out of line boom and dump for you. They used to have shit called what's that shit called? They'll run across the field because on the weekends we have like a little night yard and all the units would be outside playing basketball, baseball. People that was on Cabrillo, that was on the young unit, used to try to run on the other side to the older unit, try to rush their enemy. It used to be all like it was crazy, man.
Damn.
It was crazy. But we stood there for about. We stood at Nellis. We stood at SR for like 30 days, and then they shot us to the worst institution, which was Nellis.
Fred C. Nellis, Fred's place. Talk to us about Nellis and your experience there.
Well, you already hear about it when you're in Cabrillo, because most of everybody from there is going to Nellis or they going to OH. I was trying to go to OH close because, they had Nintendo games and it was way cooler. Nellis, you was just going to be fighting. So when I was riding on the van, there was a lot of us going. It was my boy Spider, he was from Backstreet. This dude named China Dog from 11 Deuce Hoover. Who else? Dude named Seafish from A-Tray. It was a tiny squally. It was a gang of us. We was going to Nellis deep. We had all been on Cabrillo for all together. So we got in the van. It was probably about 10 of us. We get to Nellis. They put you on this unit called Truman when you first get there. You stay there for about 7 days. And the only thing you'll experience on Truman is going to Mr. Newman's class, which is the gang coordinator who tells you about Nellis and what you should and should not do. And you go work in the kitchen until you get moved to your regular unit. Now, I know that dude from, I think you went to Nellis with him. He told you about the whispering at the tables.
Yeah.
So that's a Nellis tradition right there. So cause when the first day I got to Nellis, they're like, when y'all get up tomorrow, y'all go work in the kitchen, man. And when you get in the kitchen, you go hear everybody, and then you go turn around, they're going to be hitting you up. They're going to be asking where you from. They're going to be acting like they're your enemies. They're going to be doing all that. You're going to turn around and say your hair probably 1,000 times before you wipe the table. Yeah, when you're in Truman, you work in the kitchen. So what we used to do is you have an enemy. And then when that unit come in, you might say, okay, he's 6 people down. Because when you come get your food, it just pops out a hole. You don't see who's serving your food. Your food's already all on the tray, and it pops out the hole. You grab it, and you go fill in the rolls and sit down and eat. So people used to be like, oh, my enemy's number 5. Let me know when you see him coming closer. They'll count that 5th tray. They'll spit in it. They'll put bleach in it, and they'll mix it all up with the food and make sure that he gets that plate. And he don't even know that people are doing it. That's how bad Nellis was.
Damn.
It was terrible. People did that all the time. I used to see people put loogies. I used to be like, wow. Bleach. Anything you can put that was nasty. Mop objects on noodles days and mix it in. Just do all the type of shit. But you go there, you go to Truman, and you go through the little gang class, and they'll tell you what units, who's on here, and what's going on. And if you fight, you'll get 6 months. Add on to your time school. It was called time bomb. They called Nellis a time bomb school. They was giving you 6 months left and right. But they got a thing called I stayed on Truman for like a week. Then they shot me to an all-crip unit, basically, called Cleveland. And back then, for years, Cleveland always been a crip unit. There was never too many bloods over there. But I had a homie from Sacramento named D-Love. He was from Old Park. But I don't know how he got all the way down south, but they sent him down there. And we was there together for like a month. And then one day, I'm in the school area, and I had a homie named Lil Sheik. He was on the lockdown unit from neighborhood power out of Inglewood. And he was like, hey, MoBill. He called me on line movement in school. And he's like, hey, I know you over there by yourself. I'm about to be getting off lockdown. They already told me I'm coming to Cleveland. I was like, oh, hell yeah. Because D Love had just left. They sent him back up north. So he'd been there for like a year and a half. But by the time I got there with him, he was only there for like a month and a half. And then they shipped him back up north. So I was there for a few weeks by myself. So when she got there, it got kind of better because we was getting some establishment.